Welcome to Dungeoneering Done Dirt Cheap. I'm Everweird, and this is my solo play of the Gunderholfen Mega Dungeon, along with some side quests, using the BECME D&D rules from the 1980s and 90s. In our last session, my characters ventured into this cursed sewer, I guess you would call it. It's an adventure from the Old School Essentials Adventure Anthology 1. This is future me coming in to do the recap, because in the midst of session 15, when I was trying to recap session 14, just to state where the party was, I talked way too long about every detail of the previous adventure. This is what had happened in session 14. We took a job with the Guild of Sewer Persons to find one of their companions who had walked into a collapsed portion of the sewer, and they heard a scream, and their companion was dragged away. They hired us to investigate that disappearance, find their companion, dead or alive, answer some questions. We proceeded into this collapsed area of the sewer and had a few bad fights with an ochre jelly as well as some troglodytes. Through choices we made, we ended up in this interior room where we opened up the door, saw a human cleric sitting there transcribing something into a book, but also saw a carcass crawler. And the sight of this monster frightened us, and we attacked instantly. Unfortunately, this turned this powerful cleric and his carcass crawler on us, and with the Wand of Fetid Curses, a magic item that this cleric had, he was able to cause weeping sores and boils to appear on, I think, 3 members of my party. Yeah, 3 members of my party. We retreated. They followed us up to about room 5 or so. Eventually, they stopped pursuing us as they had figured they had done enough damage. A couple of my party had been paralyzed. One was able to have the paralysis lifted by Blaine casting Cure Light Wounds on them, but then Blaine himself was paralyzed, so we barely made it out of this place with our lives. And when we returned to Longfelt, not knowing where to go, Talira led the party to the Temple of Cathalea, where they had visited before, and a cleric from this temple had once joined the party. Talira they were obviously in distress, so the clerics there had them remove their clothes, they washed them, they applied ointments and salves, and cured the paralysis on Blaine, and let them rest there. The worst of them had these boils for 10 days, so they rest and recuperated. Is that correct? I'm questioning my day span there, such as the worst was 6 days. But we had already left Ballad at our Silver Flogger Inn to recuperate from poisoning he received on the previous adventure. He had a 10-day recuperation period, so our 6-day recuperation period ended right at the same time that Ballad's did. So we emerged from this temple cured and healthy, but wary, of course. Reunited with Ballad. Our recruiting is still a -3, so Grebe is just not even going to try to recruit until we can actually return successfully from a dungeon and prove to the people that we're we're in shape and that we're safe to work for. We did get a little bit of experience, and in session 13, Talira had received enough experience to level up twice, to go to level 2 and then 3, but there's a rule that says if you would jump a level, you actually just go 1 level and then 1 XP below that next level. So she was 1 XP below level 3, was obviously able to earn an XP in the last adventure. They earned 156, I believe. So she did level up to 3, so I've just adjusted all of her skills. No one else leveled up, but I've applied their XP, and they are back in the Silver Flogger, which is the inn they prefer to go to. It is the 22nd of the month of harvest. Their companion, Virago, has been gone for weeks now. Just told Talira that they needed to return to their community in the mountains and process everything that had been going on. We'd lost a number of party members, company members over the weeks, and Virago at one time had seemed so committed to their mission. It kind of found a mission for themselves in rescuing humanity and demi-humanity from the Gunderholfen dungeon and preventing these terrors that were in the dungeon from escaping. But losing a party member to a giant snake in the swamp sort of sent them over the edge, and they felt like they didn't know their purpose anymore. They didn't know how to apply their training to this world in the best way. So they have left and devastated Talira. Talira in the Temple of Cathalea this past week has really had to process that loss and feel that loneliness and just really kind of grow herself and just feel it. Just be an adult who loses friends and has no other choice but to feel it. What they do realize over these weeks is they eat food in the temple, and what I mean is they obviously eat food, but they are served food. They are able to participate and help serve the other clerics and parishioners of this temple, but they themselves get kind of cared for, not pampered, but a lot of these adventurers haven't come from a background where they were pampered by family, and they feel very included, and they have time to kind of grow together and talk to each other. And one of the main things they talk about is how to stop getting hit. So Zenith and Ballad, when I hire the company, I'm hiring them off of the mercenaries table for non-player characters in BECMI, but I'm not playing them as mercenaries or hirelings. They're kind of part of the party. You've heard me say this before. I'm not going to bore you with that again. But because of that, I just take their inventory as what's listed on here. So Grebe was hired in. Actually, Grebe was a NPC character that I just brought over, like a fully baked dwarf. Zenith was hired in as an archer, so had a leather armor, short bow, and a sword. And Ballad was hired as, I believe, a light foot person with leather armor, shield, and sword. So I guess it's that shield that makes up the difference between those two. But we've got enough money, we've found enough gold that there's no point in these two continuing to be unarmored and go through this. They are both fighting people in that sense, so they can wear any armor they choose, and we can pretty much afford anything. Ballad, as a frontline heavy hitter with that sword, is going to buy some plate mail and reduce their AC, so that's going to be plate plus the shield. Zenith is primarily a longbow archer. To me, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense that she would go for plate mail. There aren't any restrictions that I know of for being a ranged fighter with plate mail on. So this is just for my own verisimilitude that she would not have a shield. And I think I'm going to put her in chainmail. So that's going to give her a 5 AC. That's pretty good. Grebe is also going to buy a shield to reduce her AC to a 2. So it's going to plate and plus shield. And then Ballad's been swinging this D6 sword for a while. I think he wants something. Oh, I needed to grab those prices. So the chain plus the plate is going to be 100 and the shield is going to be 10, so 110. I don't think Ballad has a whole lot of choices in the one-handed weapon department. You know what? Ballad is going to... I don't know how to record this the best. They are at a store in Longfelt called the Adventurer's Shop and Smithy. They've actually taken these brothers on a recovery adventure before to recover a whole lot of treasure that they actually just weapons and armor that they stole from some hobgoblins. So they have a relationship with Harford and Gunth, and as they're in there buying this new equipment, Ballad spies this two-handed sword and just can't take his eyes off that. So he upgrades to this two-handed sword, which is 100 gold. Nope, it's 15 gold. It's 100 coins of encumbrance. That two-handed sword is going to do D10 damage. My fighters also leveled up, so I think with their improved hit points also over the days of rest, they're able to come back up to full health. So as they're feeling the second level bump that they have, feeling stronger, I don't know if confidence is the right word, they're probably getting better at measuring threat levels. So Grebe and Zenith are able to inform Ballad of this threat that they didn't anticipate, this cleric with a wand that made them horribly sick for days. Okay, so with Ballad will always lose individual initiative to characters not using a two-handed weapon. That doesn't matter. Halflings and small non-humans such as goblins cannot use this weapon. Otherwise, Ballad steps out of here with this two-handed sword. But that will change his AC back to a 3. So he's really the heavy hitter, even though he has the fewest hit points of the Dungeoneering Company. I wonder if I corrected everyone else's HP. No. Blaine's HP is back to a 9. And this is probably super boring to watch, but I am enjoying this aspect of tracking the campaign through the calendar. I do this kind of behind the screen for my in-person OSR game. So it's not that the players are super aware of the passing of the days or where it lands on a calendar, but I just think it's really helpful for things like here, here is where I marked that Ballad went down with that 10-day poisoning. But other than that, it feels to me like it's really significant in seeing the passage of time on a calendar versus modern games where we kind of abstract that. And anyway, I'm just enjoying it. So let's say there's a couple of days of shopping in some of this downtime as well. I believe I incorporated that Fakwal had gone back to about 4, although Fakwal is 50 XP shy of leveling up. Balfour did teach Fakwal another spell of read magic, which Fakwal realized he needed in the dungeon to read scrolls and things like that. So we're socializing in the Silver Flogger Tavern and Inn, which is where we've been staying. I need to take 125 gold out of here, plus Talira made a donation to the Temple of Cathalea, gave them 100 gold, and I'm just going to round out to like 10 days of staying in the Silver Flogger, even though we were in the temple for a good portion of that time. We're loaded with gold right here, like treasure that we recovered from the jeweler's sanctum. And we have, of course, been depositing all of this. We have a treasurer in town, Clement's clothing store. Clement, we rescued Clement's daughter, and Clement agreed to keep our treasure. So Clement doesn't exactly know how much we're giving him, but does have a store of that. We're able to kind of go in and reload when we need it. We do need health potions, so Blaine visits his source for this, his temple, and talks to them about that. Or maybe while we're at the Temple of Cathalea, we tell them we have every intention of returning to this dangerous work, and we would love to make a further donation to the temple to acquire some health potions. I want to go in with this filled back up. I want 8 more health potions. That's a lot. And I think we've been getting them for maybe I've been using the 50 gold price, which is something I found online for Beckme. But as I'm seeing in more and more of these adventures, that it may cost something more around a couple hundred, maybe even 400 gold for a health potion. That's too rich for us, but I think it's going to kind of creep up, as materials. The material cost of making those health potions, as well as the time, I need to cover for that in some way. So the Temple of Cathalea is going to charge them 75 each for these health potions. So that's going to be 150, 300, 450. That's all they're going to get. Yeah, they're going to go back on whatever adventure they go on with 8 total health potions. Rations, I'm still in good shape on. Rations is maybe one of the weirdest things to track. I get it if we were in a dungeon for an extended period of time, but it's has not been feasible to track that. I mentioned when they have a ration, I try to scratch it off, but it doesn't really seem to make a lot of difference. I am burning torches like crazy, so I want to go to the adventuring gear table. We want to buy 6 torches is 1 gold. So I'm going to spend 3 more gold to get all of these torches back or replace them in my inventory. Yeah, we loaded up on oil flasks last time. I think we're feeling pretty equipped. And as this time that we've spent socializing the Silver Flogger, we keep hearing these tales from other ruffians who come in to stay in this place. At one point they sounded like rumors, but we heard enough that they started to sound like they may be true. And these tales were as the roads that lead into into Longfelt, which is the city outside of Gunderholfen. There are 2 main entrances into the city on the east and west. And we keep hearing that the roads that lead into this, people are getting robbed, and they're reporting that the robbers are skeletons or just walking bones, attacking caravans and making off with their goods. This seems to be happening a pretty good ways out of town, but it's still alarming because it's not really impacting trade yet, but it's definitely putting fear into people within the city when they hear these rumors and these stories. And it's got to be impacting people traveling to the city. As my characters listen to these stories, it seems that they're able to kind of triangulate that all these stories center around this certain lonely barrow in the woods. It was a place where they interred soldiers, so basically a large burial plot. While people stopped visiting that place, kind of forgot that it was there, it was never known to be haunted. They never heard of any stories coming out of there. It was just kind of forgotten about. But now, travelers who have tried to recover their stolen goods or follow these walking bones hear this strange music coming from this barrow. And that's what they're reporting in Longfelt. There doesn't seem to be any reward associated with this. There doesn't seem to be any party that wants to send adventurers to this place. It simply seems like a matter of curiosity and a chance at treasure that my characters are feeling. So they have been talking about this over the days as they've been doing their various training and re-equipping, things like that. Another day passes, and at dinner that night, the party, feeling healthy and curious, has decided this is where they want to go next. They don't want to venture back to that sewer. They think that sewer person is long dead. They don't think the reward of 200 gold is worth it. They spent far more than that recovering from the injuries they received. And they frankly don't want to face that cleric that's in there again until they're feeling stronger, maybe until one or more of them has leveled up again and they feel like they can actually make an impact there. Because it did seem to them that there was only one entrance. They searched this where I know there to be a secret entrance. They did search that place at least twice and were unable to find the secret door. So I don't want to keep forcing that issue. They would have no other reason to keep searching in this alcove. They only know this one entrance. They know there's a couple of doors they didn't explore, but they're just hesitant to go in there right now. So instead, we're headed to the Barrow of the Bone Blaggards, which is an adventure from Old School Essentials Adventure Anthology 2. And I feel a little weird, like I'm skipping over several episodes in the season because I'm moving on from the Curse of the Maggot God. But I just want it to feel a little bit more reasonable for what my characters would be doing. Would they go back to that sewer? I've also puzzled over where to move Malarian, the unwashed cleric. Does Malarian increase the defenses? I haven't really thought too much about that. Malarian knows his lair has been invaded and would undoubtedly take some sort of precautionary measures. I just haven't put a lot of thought into that, so rather than put that thought in, I'm going to go to another pre-prepared adventure. I was not happy with my poorly drawn nodes and stuff here. I think I'm going to try to draw this map a little bit more like a map today. So my adventurers head out, and full disclosure, I have DM'd people through this, although they didn't nearly get through the rooms here, and they found this secret entrance into it. So I'm going to have my characters not even look for that secret entrance because I don't know how it plays out going in the main entrance. So that's what my party's going to do. As they approach this barrow, it is many miles away from the city, so it's probably going to take them 2 watches to get there. Like, this is almost as far away from the city as Gunderholfen is to the northeast. This is to the southwest. So it's late in the day on the 25th of the month of harvest when they get there. And they see this entrance that they'd been told about. There's a circular stone that has been pushed aside. There's a darkened threshold. Streams of mist slither out, and they stink of decay. There are occasional distant echoes of faint voices and song coming from inside. So they're hearing that sort of strange music that certain people reported in here. And although wary of a perfectly open dungeon, they know that's what brought them here, and so they prepare to go inside. It is dark inside. They're going to light a torch. When they enter in, they see rows of empty burial alcoves. There are crusty linen scraps on the floor and defaced reliefs on the walls of warriors fighting. They're all scribbled over with profanity. There's a crude carving on a northern door that says, "All who enter will be cursed." They still feel like a chill of fear around this. They're not seasoned enough to sense warnings like that as hyperbole, but they don't admit it. They all act like this may be hyperbole, that this is just boasting, but they act like that, but they're just playing tough. They're going to spend, it's probably going to take them 40 minutes or so to search this whole area. So they will spend that, but they don't find anything. What that does do is that there's a 1 in 6 chance of a random encounter per turn. So there's going to be 4 of those. and nothing occurs while they're in this entrance way. They have a double doors in front of them to the north, and they take up their positions. They have about 20 minutes left on this first torch, and they push those doors open. What they see is the hallway that runs to the east and the west, and that it is so long that it moves out of torchlight for them. It's probably about 40 or 50 feet in either direction. So they really have just a left or right choice here. So 1 through 3, they're going to go left, and 4 through 6, they're going to go right. They head right. Probably a little Rochambeau between the Dungeoneering Company, as that is their favorite way of decision making, and they head to the east. This hall is festooned with cobwebs. Pottery fragments litter the floor, and there's a clay jar suspended from the ceiling by a near invisible spider thread. It's right opposite those doors as they go in. So as they're discussing, do we go left or right? A couple of the company are inspecting this jar. It seems to be floating there. Of course, it's on a spider silk thread that says it's near invisible. So it looks like it's floating. Does Balad touch it? Yes. Balad gets curious and touches this jar as if to pull it off or stop it from floating in some way. Balad, who is becoming the new too curious member of the fighting company, touches this jar, and it causes the thread to snap, sending the jar crashing to the floor and releasing a cloud of bone dust. So everyone must now save versus breath. So Talira saves versus breath is a 16, fails. Faqual saves versus breath 16, fails. Blaine 16, passes. Blaine gets out of the way. Grebe 17, passes. Zenith fails. Balad fails. So Grebe and Blaine save, but everyone else spends one round coughing, and this noise attracts a wandering monster. Oh, great. A lot of dice rolling on this one. It's going to attract some skeletons. That looked cracked to me. It's going to attract one skeleton. Is my party surprised? No, they are not surprised. They see, let's see, east-west, east. They see a skeleton wandering in from the east. It is about 70 feet away. That's farther in the hall, so they just see it as it comes around that far corner. And this is a skeleton on patrol. It is wielding a rusty sword, and it must have some sort of scraps of armor on it. This is the first time any of them have seen a walking skeleton. They've heard these legends, and all of a sudden this sort of shambling skeleton is like crookedly walking and sort of a limp gait as it approaches, coming around that corner, and it freaks them out. A nightmare come to life. This is something other than like a meaty monster. Monsters are just animals they haven't seen before. This is some kind of necromantic energy. This is frightening to the party. But Blaine has been trained in this, and Blaine knows that as a cleric, he has the power to potentially turn the undead. I have not done this with Blaine before, so I'm looking for the table in the Rule Cyclopedia. Blaine is still a level 1. Oh no, Blaine's a level 2, because Blaine learned his first spell, which is Cure Light Wounds. So at level 2, to turn a skeleton, it is an automatic turn. Blaine shows his holy symbol and speaks these words of admonishment to the skeleton. The skeleton, 2d6 HD of this, is that correct? 2d6? Yeah, 2d6 of HD would be turned, but because there's only one skeleton, this works on the one skeleton. It only has one HD, so there's no way I cannot turn it. And also, at least one monster will be turned once on a successful turn. So the skeleton turns, frightened of this holy power, and begins moving away. It turns around that corridor. My party are now faced with the direction they intended to go. They know there's a wandering skeleton with a rusty sword in that direction. Would they change directions, or would they continue going? I think they're going to continue going, because they feel like if we go west in this case, whatever skeletons are there might sneak up on us. Better to face what might be there and be able to make a better informed decision. So they wander down this hall carefully, of course, and they do see that there is like a little alcove, like a hallway with some sort of collapse. Like there's collapsed stone in there. It's a cave-in. There's a collapsed passage blocked by damp earth and broken stones. There are 5 skeletal arms protruding from the rubble, flailing pitifully. So these skeletal arms are actually moving. They have been reanimated, but something collapsed on them, and they are unable to escape. One of them is blindly swinging a sword that is encrusted in verdigris, but it has a verdigris patina to it, so it's begun to turn green, a Statue of Liberty like. Ballad, for all his coughing at the last thing he touched, has this 2-handed D10 sword. Does he also want this sword? Like, he's feeling, yeah, he wants his sword. He's feeling his oats is that the right word? But feeling his oats is sowing his oats. I don't know what he's doing. It's something with his oats, boiling his oats as a fighter, and sees a treasure that is being held by an undead skeletal arm. Skeletal arms attack once before the character is able to snatch away the sword. So as he gets in there, even though he's using his 2-handed sword to try to hold this arm down, it's going to get a swipe in at him. It has a THAC-O 19. The other arms are swiping at Ballad. It's a claw sword attack. That's no good, but he's going to suffer it. He doesn't know how bad this could be. Miss. That's also going to be a miss. Just dialing up his AC is a 3. Miss. So all the claws miss. Here comes the sword. Sword also misses. So they're swiping blindly at Ballad. Everyone misses, and he's able to kind of pin this arm down with his sword and snatch that sword away. Over the next couple of turns, as he cleans this, they will all kind of rest in the hallway, and Ballad will clean this sword. We will light another torch, and Ballad begins to feel like an energy from this sword. It is a sword +1, and it bears an inscription commemorating the long ago battle in which the tomb's residents first perished. I don't know that Ballad cares so much about this sword +1. He gives it to Grebe. He says, Grebe, you're our brave leader, and you've taken us this far. I hope you'll accept this bronze sword. Grebe is touched by this and accepts this sword. Because that takes a few turns, I need to roll a few more random encounters. I'm just going to do that all at once. Nothing appears. They're standing guard, watching northward down that hall. They don't see the skeleton return, so they will turn up that hallway. This hallway likewise proceeds much farther than their torchlight carries, but they see almost immediately off to the east that there is an entrance. It's like a passageway, a doorway, you might say, to the east. I don't think they can see far enough to see these other things that I'm drawing on the map. They, I think, are learning enough that they want to investigate things like this. So they carefully, of course, turn their heads. They duck, around this corner to look in that room. They see that there are empty stone coffers lying about the floor in disarray. Some of these are broken. There's a small cairn, so a stack of stones that has been made from the rubble of some of these broken stone coffers. And they hear muffled screams coming from beneath that cairn. Faqual speaks some of those words of the chaotic tongue and asks who goes there, and receives no reply. Blaine says perhaps another approach is needed here, and speaks some of the neutral tongue, some of those words and phrases that indicate he is of a neutral alignment. He says, who goes there? And he hears a voice in response tell him, this is Alwine, and I'm trapped under here. Please let me out. And he asks in this kind of broken tongue, it doesn't contain all the words that he might need, but he says, do not attack us if we free you. Some terms of agreement here. And Alwine kind of sighs heavily and says, fine. And then Blaine and Ballad move these stones, and a pixie with fuzzy wings and feathery antennae of a moth, dressed in woven leaves, flaps out of there, flies from beneath these stones. She is angry and begins fluttering about the room frenetically. Blaine calms his comrades down, says, do not take any action against this creature unless we are provoked. I have made an agreement that she will not attack us. And she seems to just be fluttering about because she's been trapped and she needs to release that energy. So Blaine speaks again and asks her, how did she come to be here? And she says, I was taken from my quiet home in the tunnels. I lived in these tunnels for so long and it was peaceful, but I was taken by skeletons and other risen dead. They trapped me under this cairn. I heard them speak of a wizard that they were going to give me as a gift. Blaine asks, is this wizard here in these tunnels? And she says, I don't know. My guess would be yes. I never saw the wizard. I don't think skeletons have much of a memory to them, so that perhaps they forgot that they put me under these stones. I never saw it, but I would assume that it's here somewhere. Blaine questions if they know anything more about the wizard, about this place, and she says no. It was a quiet Barrow up until recently. In the last couple of months or so, she started hearing noise, and then it became more raucous. She heard music. She heard a clattering of tankards and what seemed to be some kind of mirth and partying. Doesn't understand what it was still able to go about her business and not be troubled by it, but was then taken by these skeletons when they discovered her. It seems that the tunnel she's indicating as her home are not the brick ways of this dungeon that they are in. She seems to be describing tunnels that are nearby and possibly connected, but just natural tunnels, just cave tunnels. She appreciates their help. They offer her water, food if she needs it, and she will use her powers of invisibility to help the party if they promise to get rid of the skeletons. So she asks if they will help get rid of the skeletons, and Blaine says, yes, my lady, this is my mission. I am a cleric, and I do not intend to allow the undead to continue terrorizing the people who are traveling to our fair city. So yes, I will do my best. We will all do this. This is the first time Blaine has kind of taken a mission upon himself, and that's what's going to happen. She is naturally invisible, but has revealed herself. I think she was a bit exhausted from trying to free herself from that cairn and was not using her energy to remain invisible, so has been visible to the party. I don't think her powers of invisibility extend to making my party invisible. It's only herself. But this sounds like they have an ally who can fly ahead, look into certain rooms, and signal them if those rooms are safe. So Alwine more or less joins the party. This takes another 10 minutes as most of the party rests while Blaine discusses this with Alwine, and they nourish her, feed her as they can, whatever she wants. They tell her they're headed north, that they chased a skeleton off around this corner. They give her sort of the lay of the land. She agrees to fly ahead and sort of scout within any alcove entrance that she sees. So the first thing she sees is another entrance on her east. On her right, it's a room of approximately the same dimensions. There are stacks and crates of barrels here full of stolen goods. It looks like this is what has been stolen from the caravans approaching the city. Mostly these are foods like dried beef, cheese, and bread. But there are 4 skeletons here peeking into the store and discussing what foods they want to eat when they can taste again. Alwine flies back to this first room, tells the party what's ahead, and they start calculating 4 skeletons. Blaine, I think, knows reasonably that he could turn 4 skeletons, but if they're blocking the entranceway, those skeletons have to use their movement to get past. Is there some sort of trap they could set there? The skeletons, if they are subject to turning undead, they will use all their movement to get away from the cleric that turned them. The cleric is able to use his turn undead ability every round, as I understand from the book. So it could be that maybe what they want to do is lure them out and sort of have a blockade in this hallway, so they're trying to turn them and chase them north, although that's going to consolidate all the skeletons in one area. Perhaps they want to try to chase them south. That would mean sneaking across this hallway. They know there's another entrance to the west. Alwine tells them about this entrance to the west, so they ask her to catch a peek in there, see what they see. So Alwine flies up and peeks in this western entrance. And what she sees as she peeks her invisible head in there is that it's a much larger room with some alcoves. It kind of stinks of mold, but she doesn't see or hear any creatures in there. So they feel safe that if they can get past this first door to the east and post up like on this side, lure the skeletons out, and then try to turn them so they all run south. It doesn't leave them a lot of room because there is another passageway to the east above that. I like the idea that Alwine is returning to him and saying, okay, I went through that one room, but there is this other passageway to the east, and then they're like, well, go check that one out. So then she flies back to check out the one to the east. When she does that, she sees that there are open stone coffers set into the walls. The lids are in cracked pieces all over the floor. There are skeletal pieces still lying inside these coffers, but their heads are smashed in. She does not see anything moving in this room. So they feel pretty safe. Like there's nothing in this room to the west. There's nothing in this room to the east. They just need to sneak across this doorway. There's no good sneaking mechanic in Beckme except for the thief. I think it's kind of a 50-50 shot. I mean, the other idea is that Talira sneaks across. If she fails and these skeletons hear her and come out, my ranged fighters can, she can duck into this room to the west. My ranged fighters can just try to take out these skeletons as Blaine tries to turn them. So it's really like, let's try to get Talira across, then let's try to get the rest of the party across. We would love to be in the north with that position, chasing the skeletons to the south, but if it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. So Talira is going to try to move silently. She now has a 30% chance of success. Does not make it. As she moves across, something jingles, perhaps all the gold that she's carrying. Do these skeletons hear? Yes. Skeletons notice, and I will roll a reaction for them. They are cautious. Roll again in one round with no bonus or penalty there. So they are cautious. So they hear something outside, but they don't react to it. Blaine now has to move across, has no chance at being silent. I think maybe the best thing to do is just roll a reaction. Blaine moves across. I like this idea. Blaine and Talira up here to the north. If the skeletons run out, they just funnel them into the fighting company and Faqual. So Blaine and Faqual will try to sneak across together so that Faqual can at least hide behind Blaine or duck into this passage or something. Skeletons reaction coming. 5. At this, they are aggressive, so they hear this heavy armor crossing in front of them. They don't recognize it, and these 4 skeletons will come out. Are the skeletons... I guess I'm just going to roll initiative. The logic being that, like, if it's the skeletons' initiative, they've moved so quickly that they get the jump on my party. Yep, skeletons' initiative. So they get the jump on the party. They all grab at their rusty swords. They don't have far to move, so they come out and they're going to attack Blaine and Talira and Faqual. I don't think all 4 of them can make it out of the door. I think just 2 of them. So here comes one on Talira. So that's going to hit. Ooh, and they have D8 swords. This sucks. Okay, only 2 points of damage on Talira. And the second one swings at Blaine. A 15 is not going to hit Blaine. So Talira takes 2 points of damage. The other 2 are crowded. The other 2 skeletons are crowded in that door. And it is my... Yeah, it's my turn. So Blaine has that automatic turn of undead at second level. Automatic turn of skeletons. And I just rolled 2d6 to see how many hit dice he turns. 10 hit dice. So the skeletons have an HD of 1, a hit die of 1. So all 4 of these skeletons feel this like holy power coming from Blaine, and they are all going to have to run south to get away from him. As they do that, I mean, of course, that will be on their turn, but everyone gets to attack them. So Grebe, now with this +1 sword, steps up and swings at the first one that will be coming at her, misses, new to the sword. Zenith has a Morning Star. I believe that's a D6. I don't know why I have it listed as a D8 on their sheet. 13, that's going to hit. So for 4 points of damage, takes out one of these skeletons. Ballad has that awesome new 2-handed sword. Swings it, hits, and does 9 points of damage, destroys another skeleton. And that's the fighting company. The other 3 are to the north and do not want to risk firing missiles into their companions. So my party to the south of this entrance that is kind of funneling with the skeletons. I'm wondering if Talira would step up because she did grab a scimitar. I think Talira takes a swing at one from the back. Talira has a -2 strength, so in a melee attack, she's not good. 18, so that's a 16 plus their 7 is still a 23. With 3 points of damage, she takes out. Everyone is shocked. Talira, out of the blue, comes up behind one of these skeletons and just slices it, shattering it with her scimitar. There's only one skeleton left. I'm going to roll initiative. I get to go first, so with the Dobahai division stepping up, Grebe again with that +1 sword. This time hits, does 3 points of damage, almost takes that one out. Zenith misses horribly. Balad misses. Talira, is Talira going to be the hero of this encounter? No. So Blaine will also run up this time with his Warhammer and does hit and finish off that last skeleton. So they knock down all of these skeletons. They're going to get the XP for getting Alwine on their side. And I just realized, is there any... I've not fought skeletons before. I think I've looked this up before, actually. Because I know I've taken another party through a skeleton-y adventure, a bony adventure. But I'm curious if there's anything denoting, like, are they immune to swords or have some kind of resistance? Nope, there's nothing mentioned. I mean, it's always possible that I've overlooked something, but I feel confident that we're able to see a pile of bones and aim for the center bone, holding it all together. So we now know that we have these other rooms to clear out. We're going to go first in that one where the skeletons were. We see all that dried beef and cheese and bread. We will spend 2 turns, or at least 1 turn, searching that room. I think 1 turn might get it done. It is going to take 2 turns if I want to search it thoroughly. We do. Okay, so I'm going to roll for any random encounters. No. Based on Alwine's information, we're going to proceed to the next room, northern to us, but to the east. This is where there were open stone coffers with broken bones within the coffers, where the skulls were smashed in. There's a garbled inscription on the wall opposite the entrance. So we read that. Faqual reads it. The original writing has been scratched out, but it's been replaced by crude graffiti etched by a blade, and it says, "Here lies a bunch of no-good cowards." We will spend the rest of that hour, and so I need to light another torch, searching this room, and we will find a pair of exquisitely crafted, utterly realistic glass eyes. But they don't seem to have any value. We don't know what to do with these, so add those to my treasure. Possibly they are useful somewhere else in this dungeon. I'm going to scratch off another torch as we light one. And it's now about 7 p.m. as we have started this 2 hours ago. So we've made it through these 2 rooms. It looks like in the hallway ahead of us to the north, it proceeds another 30 feet or so. And it looks like there's sort of an opening down there. I think it's just right on the edge of our torchlight. So we do not head in that direction, but would anything in that direction notice our torchlight? I don't think so, because I believe there would be torches lit in this room up here. Just reading ahead in the description, that's how I would play it, is that there's torches lit in there. And so the sort of ambient light in that room prevents them from seeing this flicker of a torch down here. We're a good 30 plus feet away, I think. So we decide to head to the room to the west. This is the room that stinks of mold. There are semicircular niches in the walls, each holding a melted candle stub, and there are 3 tapestries hung on the south wall. We light those candles so that we don't need to worry about lighting in here. And I think we see it as kind of a threat to whoever occupies this lair. You know, if this wizard supposedly is in here and walks into this room or walks by, is going to see it all lit up, hopefully after we leave and we're not there. The west tapestry is a cloth of gold. So I'm seeing that there's basically like a trap here, but it's not a trap, it's a monster. It's a yellow mold, which we have encountered before. Faqual, seeing that, I think is going to tell. Yeah, Faqual. Okay, I want to disclaim responsibility for a lot of these things, so I've said before that I would roll like an intelligence or wisdom. Faqual's more intelligent than wise. It's one or the other. Is Faqual going to warn them? I don't think it's worth rolling here. I'm feeling like a player would see this kind of yellow dust on a tapestry and go, wait, we just ran into that and it killed Rye. So he holds back Talira, who is approaching this, and says, "This looks like the dust we found on that wizard's robe. Don't touch it." So we will not find the treasure that is behind that. The middle tapestry portrays a stoic warrior with a sword. Ballad is instantly interested in this. He is really thirsty for swords at this point and inspects this. Behind, there's sort of a white light flickering near the floor. So Ballad just grabs this tapestry, pushes it away, and sees that there is a concealed door behind this tapestry. To the east, the tapestry depicts a monk knelt in prayer. Because Ballad has pulled aside this tapestry, I think Blaine is inspecting this monk knelt in prayer. He's interested in this religious depiction in this place. He asks Talira to inspect it for traps. I guess that's the best way to go about this. So Talira's going to use her find traps, which is only 20%. Crack die. Nope. Doesn't find any traps, but doesn't necessarily know that there aren't any traps. Says it looks safe as far as I can tell. Blaine covers his face and draws aside this tapestry, and there's a pull chain. Do we pull this chain? Is this a simple yes, no, or is this an intelligence question? I think, we're getting more comfortable with the dungeoneering of this. So yeah, Blaine tells everybody stand back and pulls on this chain. And this door that Ballad had revealed, they hear the tumblers turn in it, and it is unlocked. So they all sort of look at each other with surprise. They can't believe this has worked, that they have figured something out in a dungeon, and they take up their positions and they enter this room. Of course, inspecting this entire place has taken them 30 minutes. When they open this door, there's a white marble idol depicting a saintly figure cupping a brazier in its hands. Its eye sockets are empty, and the brazier is lit with ghostly white, smokeless flames. They see in the flames that there are 3 blue gemstones and a pile of glowing ash. I mean, they just found glass eyes. I don't think there's any way that they don't put these eyes into the idol. So they do that. Blaine steps up, sort of feeling like there's some holy mission in all of this. Seeing the saintly figure, there was the tapestry of the monk praying, puts the eyes in here. The flames abate. And using something to scoop up these gemstones so that he doesn't have to put his bare hand on things that were just covered in ghostly flame. We've definitely got hammers, daggers, small swords, so he can flip those out. And these are 3 blue gemstones worth 200 gold each. Blaine looks quite satisfied with himself, but also tries to play it off like, yeah, that's no big deal. I knew what I was doing. That'll pass another turn within this room. I think I forgot to roll last time. Here's an encounter. Doesn't happen. No encounter. So we feel comfortable that we've covered this whole room, but we also feel safe. So we're going to take our rest in there. Yeah, so that's our rest, and we'll just head out on the next turn. We've gone through each of these rooms. We will now douse our torch when we come out of here and head north. Because this room up here is lit and we can see the flames flickering in there, we know we can approach without a light of our own. We ask Alwine while we're in here to scout ahead, and she does. She says there are 3 skeletons smoking pipes and playing some kind of game. They're seated around a table. They continually refill their pipes from a wooden box on the floor. What she overhears is that they seem to be gambling with body parts that they plan to take from some prisoners. So Alwine hears this and thinks they may be talking about her. These skeletons seem to believe that they can somehow wear these body parts. She flies back, tells the party this. We know if we approach closely enough, probably within 20, 30 feet, because that room is so well lit and because there are pipes, repeatedly being, well, I don't think they're actually being inhaled. There's no breath from the skeletons, but there's a little smoke there. My ranged fighters will be able to fire into them. I should have mentioned, Faqual prepared read magic today because he was anticipating finding a scroll somewhere. He's found them in the last couple of adventures, and although I allowed him to use one time, he should not have been able to. So he kind of knows the usefulness of read magic, but that means there's a very, very palpable uselessness to him in all other actions. He's here only for the scrolls. So we approach within 20, 30 feet. Zenith, Talira take up their longbows. Ballad really does not want to trade his two-handed sword for a longbow, so he does not. Grebe likewise has this +1 sword. I think she feels like, no, we're going to rush in. Zenith, Talira, you fire first. We'll rush in. Ooh. Blaine agrees. Blaine's going to do the same thing, rush in. Zenith, Talira are going to fire from range. Now, this is another place where I don't know if I should roll for surprise. I think if they are surprised, I get a free attack, and then we roll initiative. If they are not surprised, we just roll into initiative right here. So there's still a chance I can go first in the initiative round, but I think that's the best way to play it off. So surprise is a 1 or 2 on a 6-sided die. So with all of this clanking around with all the armor and everything, there's always a possibility that skeletons hear us. 1 or 2, nope. They're not surprised. Something gives us away. They hear the armor clinking. I'm going to roll initiative. 3. The skeletons get up and get to decide whether they are attacking us. I think they do. I think they run out of that room. The problem is that we're going to be right on the edge of their range. So I think they're going to be able to run pretty close to us and attack my fighters. There are 3 of them. I'm going to say 2 of them are able to attack. The third can't quite make it, but they're just putting themselves in range, although they are making it so that Talira and Zenith cannot fire their ranged weapons. So a skeleton is coming at Grebe. Misses. At Ballad. Hits for 3 points of damage. And the third will come at Blaine. Cracked die. 11 is not going to hit Blaine. Ballad takes 3 points of damage and really wants to look at the skeleton and just sort of shrug it off. Like, wait till this two-handed sword hits ya. Okay, so my missile fighters don't fire. Talira drops her bow, whips out that scimitar. Do I play drop and draw rules here? I think in these close quarters, that is going to make sense to me. I'm going to look it up later. So it's just going to be pure melee in this hall. So Talira, hero of the scimitar, with a -2 on her roll. 12 plus their 7 is, so that's a 14. She has a -2 because of her strength, but she will hit with that and does 2 points of damage to one of the skeletons. I'm just going to have her take out the lowest HP skeleton there, and then Grebe with the sword +1 also hits and does 5 points of damage. Almost takes out this one. Ballad with that two-handed sword is going to miss. Still getting used to the weight of it. And then Blaine with Warhammer misses. So just in the chaos and confusion, Faqual, of course, is standing far back and doesn't want to be in this melee. Would Zenith also drop and draw? I mean, why not? Zenith drops and draws, misses. That's fair. Rolling initiative, 6. We get to go first. Talira, scimitar, natural 1, doesn't hit. Grebe, 5, doesn't hit. Zenith, 12 plus 7 will hit, does 4 points of damage, takes out the next weakest skeleton. We've got 1 standing. Ballad, 3, misses. Blaine, did I already roll Blaine? Blaine hits for 4. So the one skeleton, like, bones are flying everywhere. Hearts are racing because they're fighting the undead. Like, skeletons are walking around. They have risen, the risen dead. And the skeletons now attack that fighter line. One comes at Grebe. I forgot they have a D8 sword, but misses. The other comes for... Oh, no, there is no other. That was the only one up. Okay. So roll for initiative. 4, we get to go first, so none of this morale rolls for that skeleton. Talira, scimitar, misses. Zenith, Morningstar, misses. Oh, wait, 13 is going to hit. Yep. They have a 7 HP, 1 point of damage. It has 2 points left. Ballad, two-handed sword. I think he's been missing because I haven't been rolling the D10. 12 just hits. That goes 19. 7 AC from the skeleton. 12 plus 7 is 19. 8 points of damage. Shatters this third skeleton. They notice that there's a key on a string around the neck bone of one of these skeletons. I don't know why Blaine didn't try to turn these skeletons, but I guess it makes sense that they would fight these because they're trying to move forward. They don't want to chase them back up there. So they remove that key and they approach this room ahead that's lit with some torches. On the floor, they see a wooden box that Alwine told them the skeletons seem to be reloading their pipes from this. Blaine will inspect that box and open it. It has high-end tobacco in it. It is worth quite a bit of gold. So either Blaine is going to become a pretentious pipe-smoking weirdo, or they're going to sell this in the city for quite a bit of gold. It's going to take us a couple of rounds, and we're going to need to... No, we rested in the last hour. So it takes us... Well, technically, I mean, it's going to take us longer than this, but it takes us a couple turns to inspect this room. The wooden box is all we find, as well as just a pile of little knuckle bones. They have been playing a game with actual They've been playing the game of knuckle bones with actual knuckle bones. And we see off to the east a prison cell with a locked door. Pretty quickly into inspecting this room, because this takes us a couple turns, I got to roll encounters. Nothing. We see a musty chamber off to the east. There are several empty stone coffers within it, and there are 6 terrified merchants clad in mud-spattered purple robes of the Sericulturalists Guild. They are huddling in a corner. We speak to the merchants through this jail before we unlock it, through the barred door, and ask, who are you? How did you come to be here? And they tell us that they are some of those merchants who were raided by these brigands on the road to Longfelt, and it turned out these brigands were walking skeletons. They say their caravan was attacked, their goods were taken, and they've heard these skeletons talk about plucking out their eyes and handing over their bodies to the necromancer for his magic. There's no way that Blaine knows this, but Blaine doesn't have a way of detecting this, but he wants to make sure he has this funny feeling like, I wonder if these are undead trying to trick me. They are not. So he very dramatically, just like with it's performative, pulls out his holy symbol and censures them as the undead and tries to turn the undead. I just want to see if he feels he's successful or not. An 8. If they were zombies, they would have been turned. Of course, they are not, so they are not turned. So they sort of don't understand this gesture, but Blaine feels very confident, like, I checked them out. They're not undead. We turn the key in the lock, we open this door, and then we're going to escort them down and out the way we came in. We're going to do that, and we're going to tell them to hide outside, and we will escort them back to Longfelt. But we think they would be safer outside of this dungeon. But they have made a promise to Alwine to help clear the skeletons, and that's what they intend to do. So the merchants agree this is a good plan. We tell them that we saw a lot of scrub around here. They should just be able to hide sort of in the bushes. So that is what we're going to do. I'm wondering if I leave party member there. Faqual could be useful if I find scrolls to us, but Faqual could also be... Well, Faqual has 2 hit points. He's no use to guard merchants. So we are going to lead them out. That's probably only going to take 1 turn, if that even. So I'm going to roll a random encounter. It does not happen. We get them out of those doors and out of this dungeon, out of this barrow. There's a huge circular slab here that's been rolled away. We find a place for them to crouch and hide, and we tell them we're headed back in. That takes another 20 minutes or so, and we just go in the way we came out. We're going to go straight up there to that room. So I'm going to roll another random encounter as we make our way there. Nothing happens. Once we are in this guard room off the prison, we can see that there is another passageway that leads to the west. And like all these other passageways, it is long. Our torchlight ends just where I've drawn, just about at the end of this passage. So they don't know that. They will have to move 5 or 10 feet into this passageway to see the end of it. So they start walking out there, very cautious. They have a lit torch. They're not sure if that's the best idea, but they don't have any other way around it. When they get to the end, they ask Alwine to go ahead. Alwine, invisible. Oh, they could leave Alwine outside with the merchants. She could quickly get back to us if they were to be attacked. I mean, that's going to take a couple of rounds or turns for us to get to them. I don't think it's worth it. Alwine tells us that ahead, the passageway breaks off to the north and the south, and that she saw closed doors, double doors, in either direction. I'll tell you from running this before, This is where it's about to get hairy. We approach. The 3 party members are going to attempt to hear noises. For Talira, that is now 40%. Talira gets a really good listen, and it doesn't take much to know that there are noises to the south. She hears drinking, laughing, singing, and a strange guzzling sound from there, and doesn't hear anything from the northern doors. So they decide to try the northern doors. Blaine has also heard this noise from the south. As we are standing out there, we're sort of around this corner here, and there's a chance that roving skeleton guard appears, but it does not. So we're going to try these doors to the north. When we open this door and our torchlight gets thrown within that room, we're immediately taken aback. There is blood on the floor that seems to have been twisted into these occult symbols. There are multiple piles of bloody bones, and there's this miserable bed formed by a pile of grave shrouds atop a sarcophagus. There is a robed figure there, hunched over a book that is laid out on an overturned coffer. This figure is emaciated, wearing dirty robes, and just has this desperate look in his eyes. We whisper in common, because we sense this is a human. Blaine is going to do this. Blaine is sort of taking the lead in this, as there are so many undead, and says, "Sir, are you a prisoner here?" And this figure looks up with this stunned look. He's been so lost in this book, and he says, yes, I'm a prisoner. Blaine says, "Why were you not behind the bars?" And this figure says, "Are you here to free me? Are you here to end this madness?" And then immediately starts talking to himself. I don't even think you could. You can't do this." Blaine says, "Relax. We have made a promise to rout the skeletons out of here to destroy them. What is your role in all of this?" I think there's going to be a reaction from this figure. That's what makes the most sense in a DM-less game. I think the non-player, the retainer reaction table is very different from the encounter reaction table. But it doesn't make any sense to me that he would attack. I'm thinking like maybe there's something on that NPC table where I think I'll use this table. It's a 2d6 roll. It's basically like if you're offering a job to a retainer, refuse, insulted, refuse, roll again, accept or accept. It makes sense. We're offering to save him and rescue him from this horrible situation. So if he's refusing, it's because he's frightened of those skeletons. So that makes the most sense to me. He's frightened of something in the situation. So a 7. It's a roll again. So we continue to discuss. Blaine says there have been terrible things going on. The skeletons have been raiding merchants approaching the city and stealing their goods. They have spoken of a necromancer. We are worried that is you, but they want to make offerings. We need to know right now, would you come with us peacefully, or are you on the side of these skeletons? They're making the offer again. We will rescue you if you are opposed to this undead bacchanal that's happening. 10. With that elaboration by Blaine, this necromancer kind of snaps out of his reverie and says, yes, listen, I have been trying unsuccessfully to find a way to reverse a ritual that I performed that raised these undead. I convinced these skeletons that if I continued performing this ritual, I could return them to human form, to a flesh-bound existence. This is a terrible lie, but they have kept me here performing this ritual over and over. I didn't want to be killed by them. That's why I made this bargain with them. I will give you 1,000 gold pieces if you can get me out of here alive and keep this whole thing secret. Blaine says, I'm just going to be honest with you. I don't think we can keep this secret. We heard about this within the city. We didn't hear about you, but I'm uncomfortable making that bargain with you. If we can get you out of here safe, can you help us stop this ritual? Stop keeping these undead in some sort of risen state. Fekwal asks him about the ritual. What happens if you stop performing this ritual? If you stop whatever this mumbling is from the tome that you're hunched over? He tells Fekwal that the ritual doesn't have to be performed constantly, but monthly. It takes place on the night of the new moon, and I must perform it. So they have kept me here. I have been studying this tome to find a way to reverse it. He asks, what day is it? What day is it? And they tell him it is the 25th of the month of harvest. They know that the new moon will arrive around the 1st of the month of Beaver. So they probably have 6 more days before he has to perform this. So that means these skeletons will remain risen for at least 6 days until he performs that. So he says, you're going to have to get me out of here secretly, because once those skeletons realize that I am missing, they will come after me in order that I keep them alive. He tells them, like, you're already wasting time. They come to check on me every 10 minutes or so. We must move. They don't feel like they trust him. I think Faqual, who is not very wise, with only a 9, rolls his wisdom. Yeah, and thinks he doesn't trust them. And it doesn't trust this person. They've asked his name. He says it is Quintius. Faqual's going to keep that distrust to himself. But Faqual will say to Talira, I think this is our best chance of ending what's going on here with the skeletons. Let's escort Quintius to safety. I think Blaine's right. We can't keep this secret necessarily, but we don't have to put the full blame on Quintius. Faqual has a question that he's going to ask once they get out with Quintius, basically. He doesn't want to turn Quintius on the party just yet. They all agree, and because they've already escorted the merchants out through that northwest passage in the east, they don't necessarily want to explore beyond here. They've heard the sounds of singing and chattering coming from these southern doors here. I am going to roll like another wandering monster check, or basically a guard check, but they confirm with Quintius this plan. They say, we're going to take you to the east, to that guard room, and to the south, and then back to those double doors that lead into the Barrow, because we have traveled that route twice now, or 3 times, and it has been, we're reasonably confident there are, while we may pass some wandering skeletons, that there aren't greater dangers there. Quintius says, if this is as you described, if you have defeated these skeletons that were guarding that area, then I think you're right. I think we're safe. Within this next turn, although it probably doesn't take 10 minutes, it's just an abstraction. Yes, guards appear. It says one of the skeletons. As they are talking with Quintius, they hear this door open, and a skeleton is there. The skeleton sees all 6 of them in there talking to Quintius, and is going to turn and run back to those doors. So basically, we have 10 seconds to make sure this doesn't happen. So I'm trying to think of this in phase terms of Beckme. We've been surprised by this skeleton. He's going to get his movement to run back. I think with his full movement, he's only going to make it right to that door. So like back to those southern doors. So if we just bolt out and start swinging at him, we might be able to slay this skeleton before it gets back behind those doors. But my question to myself is about initiative, and should I roll an initiative and then give the skeleton an additional turn? And that just sensibly doesn't make sense to me, because if the skeleton spent sort of 30 feet of movement getting here and 10 feet of movement getting back to those doors, it doesn't make sense that we would not have time to react in there. So the second question is more about who's armed, and I think Grebe and Ballad for certain are armed. Talira can easily grab her scimitar, but Grebe and Ballad are going to be the ones that get that first strike. This skeleton has 5 hit points. Okay, so I could use individual initiative. It's an option. It's on page 102 of the Rules Cyclopedia. And then a further option is the dexterity adjustment. So that's not even baked into individual initiative by the rules. So I could just roll a d6. What I'm questioning is, like, does this skeleton have dexterity? They don't give stats like that in basic D&D. Monsters do not have a full set of stats. And I don't think they have initiatives listed. Well, maybe this is a moot point. Faqual is the only one with a dexterity bonus. No one else does. So it really doesn't matter. Here's what I'm going to do. Skeleton rolls a 5. So anyone who rolls a 6 is going to be able to act before that skeleton. Talira, okay, tied initiative. I think I'm going to allow her to act. Faqual, 5, tied initiative. Blaine, 1. So Blaine can't act. Grebe, 4, no bonus. Zenith is going to get to act first, and so is Ballad. Zenith gets the jump on this skeleton. Swings with her Morning Star. 14 hits the skeleton for 6 points of damage. I believe I rolled it had 5 hit points. With one swoop, Zenith smashes the skeleton. right on the edge of this doorway before it can alert other skeletons in there. We all breathe a huge sigh of relief. We grab Quintius, put him and Fequal sort of in the center of the fighters, and we run to the east and then to the south. We can make it about to here on one round of running. There is a note about 1 to 3 turns before the skeletons realize that Quintius has left the room. But I think when that other skeleton doesn't return within that round, I'm going to roll the same 2 and 6 chance. So a 3. They within that 10 seconds, they don't realize anything. We continue running. We're going to make it through those doors before anything is noticed, and eventually just out here. The merchants hear us talking with Quintius, and as we are out and feeling safe, Fequal signals to Talira to be on alert for something. He says, I just want to ask one more question of Quintius before we return to the city. So they are outside the dungeon. They are mostly hidden within the brush. The fighting company goes over to the merchants to keep them safe. They're concerned because they think this is the necromancer that they heard that they would be experimented with. I think as soon as the fighting company goes over to the merchants to keep them safe, they say, we think we found the necromancer. It sounds like he was part of this. He was trapped in there as well. He acknowledges he performed a ritual to raise the skeletons, but then they took him prisoner and forced him to continue performing this ritual. And the merchants say, if that's true, then why did he take some of our fellow merchants that he captured as prisoners and perform his undead experiments on them? We lost people because of that necromancer. Fequal, hearing that, it alerts the suspicions he had all along. They're shouting from 20, 30 feet away. Fequal turns to Quintius and says, is this true? Did you perform experiments on some of those prisoners that the skeletons took? And Quintius sort of sheepishly acknowledges, like, the skeletons, they were forcing me to perform all sorts of horrible acts. I may have used some of the living in some experiments, but it was purely because I was captured there. And he is beginning to mumble something arcane. He has this book with him. Fequal is going to try to grab that book away from him. I think this is going to be a strength check. And Fequal succeeds. So Fequal pulls this grimoire from Quintius. And then Fequal begins casting read magic so that he can read what it is. But while he's doing that, Quintius is continuing to mumble. And within this 10 seconds, Fequal reads this magical script. It's written in blood, and it describes the ritual to animate dead remains. He gets far enough to know that this will unearth all interred human remains within 200 feet, and they will rise as skeletons or zombies. He's reading this in the book as Quintius begins speaking out loud in this magic language, and Fequal realizes too late what Quintius has done. Quintius has cast sleep over this entire area. It has a range of 240 feet, and it will put creatures to sleep for up to 16 turns, so 160 minutes. It will affect creatures with 4+1 hit dice or less. None of my characters or this extra party have more than 1 or 2 HD. Victims get no saving throw. The DM rolls 2d8 to find the total hit dice affected. So to think about this, I've got 5 characters that have 2 HD. So I've got 10 HD right there. 1 character has 1 HD. That's 11 HD. And then 6 of these merchants that are with me, they each have 1 HD. So I have 17 HD. He can't put everyone to sleep, but he can really do some damage with 2d8 of hit dice. 4. Holy moly. So 10 HD of creatures are going to fall asleep. This sweeps out from him. He is closest to Fequal. Fequal drops into sleep with this grimoire in his hands. Talira is nearby, also drops to sleep. Blaine drops to sleep because they are the ones around Quintius. And then as it sweeps over to the other party, there are 9 other people there. It has taken down 5 HD right now. So it only has 5 HD of sleepiness to spread across the rest of the company and the merchants. There's 9 of them. It's It's got 5 HD. Okay, I'm going to roll who goes first. I'm going to roll an order down the Dungeoneering Company, and then I'll hit the merchants. So basically, if I roll a 1 through 3, it's going to get one of them. Otherwise, it's getting one of the merchants. It sweeps out. It gets one of the merchants. So that's 1 HD. So that's 6 HD that it's taken down. 7 HD that's taken down. Grebe goes down. 8 HD that it's gone down. That it's taken down. Another of the merchants. That's 9 HD. Another of the merchants. So Grebe falls asleep as well. Zenith and Balad are left awake, and they look over and see what's happening 20 feet away or so. This has 240 feet of range, and those people asleep will be asleep for 130 minutes, 13 turns. Zenith and Balad look over, they see their companions are slumped on the ground, and they see Quintius is pulling this grimoire away from Fequal's hands. Quintius then starts running outside the Barrow, is running in the darkness, trying to escape them. Zenith knocks an arrow to her longbow, and I'm going to roll initiative. 2. So Quintius gets another 90 feet at least, probably 120 feet away as he continues running. And longbow has a long range of 210 feet, but up to 140. The question is, can she see well enough in the dark? I don't think she would see, but like within this happening, like all of this at once, Zenith gets a shot off. 8. He has a 9. It does not hit. So an arrow goes whizzing past Quintius. Balad takes off running with that long sword, and Balad will mostly catch up. If Balad wins initiative on this next round, he can catch up with Quintius and strike. Crack. Quintius moves another 120 feet, and Balad now has to use his movement, and Zenith is still running. She's shouting at Balad, like, let him go, let him go. But Balad does not want to give up on this. So, initiative. Balad catches up on this third round. It swings with that two-handed sword. One, rolls a 1. Misses horribly, but would have done some terrific damage. Sleep is the only spell that Quintius had prepared. Quintius just sprints again, 120 feet. And you know what? Balad could not have actually struck in that round because he's spending like all of his movement to run. He's not doing encounter movement. So at that point, Balad gives up. Zenith catches up to him and says, we've got to take care of our own. They run back to this barrow. They shake their companions to wake them. It does wake them. So they wake up their companions and those merchants who have fallen asleep. Fequal immediately recognizes that the grimoire is missing from his hands and curses, and they know if they can keep Quintius away from this place for 6 more days, and he cannot perform that ritual on the night of the new moon in the month of Beaver, then he cannot reawaken all of these undead. So they ask the merchants if they will consent to telling this to the guards within Longfelt. Maybe the guard can send some soldiers here to guard this barrow. And then the fighting company is going to roll that stone back in front of the barrow to kind of try to guard it a little bit. I don't think we have any way to trap it or be assured that the skeletons are there. So we also tell the merchants, we need to move. So we need to move overnight. We continue walking through the night. It takes 2 watches to get back to the city. They're reasonably confident that Quintius was not in shape to probably make that. So he may have been hiding out on the road and seen them pass during the night, clutching at his grimoire as he did. When they return to Longfelt, they enter the city, and they are now quite accustomed and familiar with most of the guards in there. They tell the guards what's happened. Those rumors we heard of the barrow with the skeletons rising from the dead, they're true. We think you should send a division of guards to guard it. If the necromancer cannot perform the ritual within 6 days, those skeletons cannot be risen again. But they spend some time describing this to the guards. They are exhausted and weary and weak, eating their rations, but nonetheless exhausted. The merchants vouch for them. They back up their whole story. They tell them the story of how they were assaulted on the road by these brigands that turned out to be the Walking Dead, and that all of their goods and stores were taken from them. They do have, and I don't know why they have this, how they're able to do this. Maybe it's in town, but they are able to, if returned to civilization, the merchants will pay the party 1,200 gold. So my party does gain some XP through the 8 skeletons that they defeated, as well as freeing Alwine and the merchants paying them some gold. They didn't get the treasure back from Quintius. He had promised them 1,000 gold, but of course he's not going to follow through on that. They have some high-end tobacco with them. They found some gems. As they approach the city, though, so before this interaction with the guards happens, as they're on the road, Alwine has been circling them, making sure that wizard is not approaching, and she says, I will do my best to listen for the skeletons, see if they leave that barrow, and I will do my best to find you in this city if I can, if they escape. But otherwise, I will just be a lookout there. I thank you for freeing me. And if we cross paths again, I look forward to seeing you. But you can tell she doesn't really want to be friends with them, but nonetheless will be friendly with them. So we earned 1,293 XP, which is going to be 215 XP per person. I'm going to round that up to 216 because it's 215.5. Oh, and I forgot about the jewels. Over the next couple days, they will sell those gems. That's another 600, so it's going to be 100 per person. That's an easy one to apply. So Talira does not level up. Fequal does level up, so he gets to add a second spell to his repertoire. And he's already got a few in his spell book, so really he's just able to prepare a second spell per day. Blaine does not level up, nor do the fighters. So yeah, all the accounting was pretty easy on that one. And we only really explored half of this dungeon, but it also doesn't seem like a dungeon that's worth going back to for treasure reasons, because the main engine of that dungeon was certainly Quintius. I don't think Quintius, like if we're talking about the whole story, I don't think Quintius goes back to this Barrow, but I think Quintius exists in the story to cause trouble later on as a necromancer with that book that can raise the dead in a ritual, sort of massively raise the dead. I think that's the threat of Quintius, not the Barrow. And it's really interesting to have run this solo because choosing that second entrance, first of all, I had a much easier time, I think, of figuring things out as I went through than the party I ran through this. They found this secret entrance and went through here and very quickly ran into some trouble. Granted, a lot of that was because of their shenanigans, but it did not work out very well. And in fact, they are still in that dungeon, and that's where I'm picking up their next session. So it's yet to be determined if they even find all of this around here and stop the engine of the dungeon from running. But anyway, that's session 15, and I will see you in session 16.